السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. رب اشرح لنا صدورنا ويسر لنا أمورنا واحلل عقدة من ألسنتنا يفقهوا قولنا. اللهم نور قلوبنا بمعرفتك واشرح صدورنا بنور كتابك وسنة نبيك، واحفظنا ما أنزل من خطأ في بيان مرادك. بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال: وإذا قضي للشفيع بالدار ولم يكن رآها فله خيار الرؤية، وإن وجد بها عيبا فله أن يردها به، وإن كان المشتري شرط البراءة منه، لأن الأخذ بالشفعة بمنزلة الشراء.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Now he's discussing the khiyar, the two types of khiyar that a person has. If you purchase something, you have two khiyars, two options, right? So if you purchase something unseen and then you got to see the item and it was not according to your expectation, then you have a right to return. You have the option to return that item at that point, right? And that's your right as a buyer to return the item after having sighted it. So that's called khiyar ru'ya. And then you have another khiyar in Islam that is called khiyar al-aib. And this is where you purchased an item and you became aware of a fault in the product. Right? You brought it home and there was some kind of fault. Then again, you have a right to return the item and get a refund. So it's called khiyar al-aib. Okay, so those are the two options that the Sharia has put in place to protect the buyer from being duped or from purchasing something that he was given the wrong impression about, you could say. Right? Uh, so, so that's what he's discussing here. He says when well, I just lost the page. Not the page.
وإذا قضي للشفيع
Well,
وإذا قضي للشفيع بالدار.
turn the page. Okay, yeah. وإذا قضي للشفيع الدار ولم يكن رآها فله خيار الرؤيا. So if a judgment has been passed in favor of the Shafi with regards to the house or the property, whereas he has not as yet seen it, then he has khiyar ru'ya. Meaning that if he finds it not to his liking, maybe there was high walls built around it, so he didn't actually see the house, you understand? As such, he just had some rough idea of what the property looked like. So now that he actually became the owner of it, now he got to properly see the inside and the outside, and he didn't like what he saw. You understand? The house was in very dilapidated, poor state, whatever. So then he has the right to return it. وَإِنْ وَجَدَ بِهَا عَيْبًا, and if he finds any fault in it, فَلَهُ أَن يَرُدَّهَا, then also he has the right to return it. وَإِنْ كَانَ الْمُشْتَرِي شَرَطَ الْبَرَاءَةَ مِنْهُ وَإِنْ الْوَصْلِيَّةِ, even though the mushtari placed a condition of absolvement from it. Al-Shatul Bara is what we in South Africa call footstoots. And sold as is. And so that's Bara'ah. And sold as is. Footstoots, understand? Meaning that the seller is not really taking responsibility for any fault that the purchaser, the buyer, might find in it afterwards. So I'm selling it at this particular price, footstoots, as is. If you want it, you take it, and whatever faults it, that's your problem. Okay? So if the mushtari should place this condition of bara'ah, of being absolved of any fault with regards to the item, even then, the Shafi will have the khiyarul aib and khiyarul aib. Okay, he will have the right to return the house because of some fault that he might have found in the house. Okay. ولأن الأخذ بالشفعة بمنزلة الشراء. Because as was discussed in the previous passage, taking a house by means of shufa, he holds the same status as purchasing it. And he holds the same because he's basically paying money for it. Not getting it for free. The shufa, haku shufa does not entitle him to the house, but he has to pay for it. He just gives him the right to have first option not to buy. You follow?
Okay.
So therefore, when it is a bay as such, when it is a transaction, then all the rights of the mushtari, in this case the shafi, will apply. Okay? There's no reason for us not to give him khiyar al-ayb and khiyar al-ru'ya. What's the proof that it is shira? It is a purchase. Ala yura is not seen annahu mubadlatun mal bil mal. That is an exchange of wealth for wealth. It's a mutual exchange of wealth here. That's what's the definition of purchase. فيثبت فيه الخيار. So therefore both khiyars will be established in it. خيار العيب and خيار الرؤيا. كما في الشراء as it exists in a purchase. Okay?
Yeah.
ولا يسقط بشرط البراءة من المشتري. And the khiyar will not be waived, will not fall away by the stipulation of the mushtari of براءة, of absolvement. ولا برؤيته. Sorry. Well, this right of hakul a will not fall off just because the mushtari is claiming absolve. ولا برؤيته, and neither will it fall off by the mushtari having seen the place. In other words, the mushtari's view of the place and his happiness of the place will not stand in place of the shafi'is. Okay? So just because the mushtari is happy with what he sees doesn't mean that is sufficient for the shafi as well. You follow?
Okay.
Why? لأنه ليس بنائب عنه. Because the mushtari is not a deputy on behalf of the shafi. So his ru'ya can't stand in place of the ru'ya of the shafi. فلا يملك إسقاطه. So therefore he doesn't have the right to waive it. But I saw it. I was happy with it. What's wrong with it? So therefore you take it as it is. So you don't have haqqul ru'ya. It doesn't work like that. Because everybody's tastes are different. Everybody's needs are different. So just because the mushtari was happy with what he saw doesn't necessarily mean that the shafi will be happy with what he sees. Follow?
Okay. So even if the mushtari bought it from the previous owner with the barat, it will still be for him also.
Yes, it will still be. Yes, correct. Because that is a separate that was a separate transaction. It had nothing to do with the shafi.
Okay.
بسم الله. كده.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فصل في الاختلاف بين الشافعي والمشتري. قال وإذا اختلف الشافعي والمشتري في الثمن فالقول قول المشتري لأن الشفيع يدعي استحقاق الدار عليه عند نقد أقله وهو ينكر والقول قول المنكر مع يمينه.
Right. Now, this chapter is on a dispute. And so this is dispute resolution. I think if the mushtari and the shafi are differing on different things, then what do we do? So he's saying وإن اختلف الشافي والمشتري في الثمن, that if the shafi and the mushtari differ with regards to the price, فالقول قول المشتري, then in that case the the claim of the mushtari will be accepted. Right? So the mushtari is claiming that he purchased the house for 50,000, for example. The shafi obviously is going to claim a lower price. He's saying no, it was purchased for 30,000 or 45,000, for example. So in this case here, whose word do we take? So we say that we will take the word of the mushtari. Okay?
Okay.
Why? Why do we accept the word of the mushtari, a higher price? لأن الشافي يدعي استحقاق الدار عليه عند نقد الأقل وهو ينكر. Because the shafi is a mudda'i, that he is claiming the right or entitlement to the house over the mushtari. عليه على المشتري. At a lesser cost. In the نقد الأقل at a lesser cost. Right? So the shafi is a mudda'i. What is his da'wah? His da'wah is that I'm entitled to this house over you. I'm more entitled, I have a greater right to purchase this house than you. And so that's the first thing. Secondly, he's claiming it at a lesser price, 45,000, in comparison to the 50,000 the mushtari is saying. Okay? And the mushtari yunkir is denying it, rejecting that. وَالْقَوْلُ قَوْلُ الْمُنْكِرِ. And in such a case, the word, the claim of the munkir is accepted. And what's it? البينة على المدعي. وال البينة على المدعي واليمين على المنكر. So in this case here, obviously it's in this instance here we have to assume that the Shafi doesn't have any evidence for what he is saying, and he's just making the claim. So in this instance here, because he is the da'i, the mudda'i, therefore his word won't be accepted. But we will accept the munkir, and in this case the munkir, as we have worked it out here, is the mushtari. So therefore his claim, his word will be taken, and not that of the Shafi'i. وَالْقَوْلُ قَوْلُ الْمُنْكِرِ مَعَ يَمِينِهِ. And the claim or the word of the munkir, the one who's denying, rejecting the claim, his word is taken in consideration together with an oath, on oath. Okay? Hello?
Shima.
So now the question arises, why don't they both take an oath? So you're saying, وَلَا يَتَحَالَفَانِ, that both of them will not be asked to take an oath, because none of them have proof. So both of them will not be asked to take an oath. لأن الشافعي إن كان يدعي عليه استحقاق الدار فالمشتري لا يدعي عليه شيء. So he says, because that when the Shafi is the one making the claim upon the mushtari alayhi, he's claiming against the mushtari a right to the house. So the mushtari is not claiming anything against him in return. So it's not like he's making a counter claim against the Shafi. Okay? So the Shafi is the only mudda'iya, whereas the mushtari isn't claiming anything against the Shafi. He's merely rejecting the Shafi. He's merely rejecting the Shafi's claim to what the purchase price was. He's not even rejecting the claim of the Shafi or his entitlement to the house. You follow?
Yeah.
So when the mushtari is not claiming anything or counter-claiming anything, so therefore we will take his word and not take the word of the mudda'i, because al-bayyinatu al-mudda'i, he has to present proof. وَالْيَمِينُ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَهُ. Okay? وَالْيَمِينُ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَهُ.
Okay.
So when he is not claiming anything, لِتَخَيُّرِ بَيْنَ التَّرَكِ وَالْأَخْذِ. So he is not claiming anything against the mushtari, and at the same time, the Shafi has the right, sorry, he's not claiming anything against the Shafi. The Shafi has the right to either take it or leave it. If he's not happy with the price, he can take it, he can leave it. He doesn't have to take it. Okay?
Okay. But if he doesn't agree with the price, he can walk away.
He can walk away. Yeah, if he's not happy with what the Mushtari is saying. Okay?
Okay.
So, and in this case, yeah, the Mushtari can't walk away from this whole thing. Understand? He can't walk away from the court case, even if he now wants to leave it. He still has to be he still has to present himself, okay, in the court case because of the Shafi until the judgment has been passed. ولا نصها هنا, and there's no text here. There's no Islamic text from Quran and Sunnah to say that in such an instance both of them must take an oath. فلا يتحالفان, so therefore they will not both be asked to take an oath. And there's no ayat from Quran or a hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying that in such a case here, both of them must take an oath. Okay? So therefore we will apply the normal ruling that al-bayyinatu lil-mudda'i wal-yaminu ala man ankara.
قال فإن أقام البينة والبينة للشافعي عند أبي حنيفة ومحمد رحمه الله. وقال أبو يوسف رحمه الله البينة بينة المشتري لأنها أكثر إثباتا فصار كبينة البائع والوكيل والمشتري من العدو ولهما أنه لا تنافي بين البينتين فيجعل كأن الموجود بيعان وللشفيع يأخذ بأيهما شاء.
So he's also another reason why I brought this about both of them taking an oath is because if they were a mushtari and a ba'i, they would have taken an oath. Both of them would have taken an oath. Right? So in the case of a mushtari and a ba'i, that is because we have hadith to say that that is what should happen. But in this case here, there isn't. And in the case of the ba'i and the mushtari, both of them are sort of making inkar, you could say. Both of them are rejecting something or the other. See? So to some extent, they're both munkir. That's why in the case of a ba'i and a mushtari, should they dispute upon the price, both of them will be asked to take an oath if neither of them can present evidence. Okay? However, now he's saying, وَلَوْ قَامَ الْبَيِّنَةُ فَبَيِّنَةٌ لِلشَّفِيعِ. So if both of them was to present evidence, then again, فَبَيِّنَةٌ لِلشَّفِيعِ, then the evidence of the Shafi will be accepted. Because again, al-bayyinatu lil-mudda'i, and we just established that the Shafi is a mudda'i, so therefore his evidence will be given preference over the evidence of the mushtari. In the Abi Hanifa or Muhammad is according to Tarfain, rahimahullah ta'ala. However, Imam Yusuf rahimahullah says al-bayyinatu bayna al-mushtari لأنها أكثر إثباتا لأنها أكثر إثباتا, that the evidence of the mushtari will be accepted. Why? Because his evidence is establishing the higher amount. Okay? So we'll stop here, inshallah. I'll explain till there. After that, I'm a bit confused. I didn't actually understand properly, even though I checked everything. So then I'll explain it tomorrow, inshallah. I'll do for it again. So what Imam Yusuf Rahman is saying is what? That if the one is claiming 50,000 and the other one is claiming 45,000, so on 45,000 both agree, isn't it?
Okay.
They both agree on a lesser amount. The dispute is in at 5,000 extra. You understand? The dispute is in the 5,000 extra. Up to 45,000, they're both in agreement. So because generally you provide evidence to show something that the other one isn't showing, or to prove something that the other one is denying, making a car of. Understand? So that is why the bayina of the mushtari will be accepted, because he is proving the higher amount. and the Shafi is rejecting it, making inkar of it. So Imam Yusuf Rahman is saying in this case here, the Shafi becomes the munkir, and the Mushtari is the muddai of that extra 5,000. Okay, so because he is establishing the higher amount, the greater amount, so therefore his evidence will be accepted. Okay?
That's if he brings proof.
I can't hear you, Mark.
So that's if the Mushtari brings his own proof.
Yeah, if that's what they call walau qama, walau qama al-bayina. Both of them are providing evidence. So whose evidence do we accept? So we accept the evidence of the Shafi according to Tarafain, and Yusuf says no, the evidence of the Mushtari. Okay, because he has established the extra amount.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, understood.
And then he's giving a few examples there. Inshallah, we'll go through that tomorrow, inshallah. Right? The first two is easy to understand. Kabayinatul ba'i wal wakil. Like if a buyer, somebody who sells something, the seller, sorry, not the buyer, the seller. Like if the seller was disputing with a mushtari, with a buyer. There's a seller and a buyer, they're disputing. Seller and the vendor and his client, it's really easier that way. The vendor and his client are disputing over the price. The vendor is saying, I charged, you owe me 10,000. And the client is saying, no, only 8,000. So we accept the vendor's evidence, or produce evidence. Right? So we'll accept the vendor's evidence. And the same thing of a wakil of the buy. We'll accept what the wakil of the buy said because they're both the same thing. Representative of the vendor. And for example, his agent sold you the thing. The vendor himself didn't sell it to you, one of his agents sold it to you. And he's claiming a higher price, and the client is claiming a lower price. The customer is claiming a lower price. So in both these instances, we will accept what either the vendor himself is claiming or what his representative is saying. Okay? So just like how you accept it there, so in the same way, the same thing applies here as well. Answered?
Sure.
It gives a third one, that's where I'm a bit confused, and also the rest of it as well. So inshallah, I'll go over it again and see if I can make some more sense of it, inshallah. We'll try to do that tomorrow, inshallah. Any questions?
No, alhamdulillah, that is understood.
سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.